Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. How are you all doing? How are all you wonderful people doing? How is our brother doing over here with the white turban? Good, good, good. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We begin with our intention from Imam al-Haddad. نوينا التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والتأدب والتأديب والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء مرضات الله ووجهه وقربه سبحانه. اللهم افتح علينا بحكمتك وانشر علينا برحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. يا عليم علمنا من علمك ما ترضى به عنا ولا تؤاخذنا بما تعلمه منا. يا حليم خلقنا بخلق الحلم وحققنا بحقائق العلم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Today our topic is the beautiful soul. And here we want to talk about our souls. So let me get this right. We want to talk about our souls, which are your souls, our beautiful souls. And the beautiful soul has to bring together the opposites. And it has to be able to balance between these different things. We have to live in this world and we have to be of the other world. And the beautiful soul is beautiful because of its ability to do that. And we're talking about traversing the end of times. How do we relate to them? What is the most beautiful way to do that? I will attempt to make this a lecture based on knowledge, especially fiqh, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And here I'm relying on teachers that I've had and that I have. And I'm going to use my computer. Her name is Maimuna, as some of you know. She has a name. She is a big part of my intellect. If I lose my computer, I don't have much to say. So I hope you don't mind my lecturing from my computer. Many people today, they don't like that. They say, pay attention to us, not to her. Okay? But I have to pay attention to her. All of you know Hadith Jibreel. And Hadith Jibreel is one of the most monumental of the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is a late Madani's Hadith, meaning that it's a Hadith that the Prophet spoke sallallahu alaihi wasallam either at the time of Hijjatul Wida', the farewell pilgrimage, or after that. Perhaps most scholars, certainly many scholars, would say that it's after the farewell pilgrimage. And that hadith is itself a beautiful topic to talk about all day and all night. One of the things that it tells us subtly is about the greatness of the Sahaba. It tells us about the greatness of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because here, at the end of the prophetic dispensation, others say the prophetic message being given, the dispensation is bigger than that. Gabriel comes to the companions themselves and they see him. Of course, he comes in human form. But this is an honor to them, and he comes to teach them their deen, their religion. And he had been teaching our blessed Prophet the deen now for 23 years. But now he comes to the Sahaba themselves. So it shows us the exalted station of these great men and women. And the details about Hadith Jibreel are very, very many and very beautiful, but we won't linger on that. As you know, Gabriel comes to ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is Islam? What is Iman? What is Ihsan? And those three elements, without any question, they are the deen. They are the deen. Islam, which is outer conformity with the prophetic law, bearing witness that there is no God but God, establishing the prayer, paying the zakat, fasting the month of Ramadan, making pilgrimage if you can, and then that includes the entirety of the rules of the Sharia. How we make wudu, how we make contracts, mortgages, how we do inheritance, everything else. It's all in that fiqh, what we call fiqh and usul al-fiqh and maqasid and these other great sciences. And then iman, which is internal, that we believe in here. And of course we believe on the basis of proof, not just emotion, not just will. We believe in God. We believe in the angels. We believe in the prophets. We believe in the books. We believe in the last day, the resurrection of the dead, and so forth. We believe in destiny, al-qada wal-qadar, the decree and the destiny, whether it's good or bad. So that's an internal dimension, and it's called iman. And it also has sciences, which are theology, ilm al-tawheed, ilm al-kalam, discursive theology, al-aqaid, ilm al-aqidah, and so forth. And then the question comes, what is ihsan? Ihsan is the pinnacle. It is the epitome. It is the embodiment of the other two. And it means to do things perfectly and beautifully, moral perfection, ethical perfection, spiritual perfection. And the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as you know, أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك, that you worship God as if you could see Him. For although you do not see Him, He sees you. This is the deen. This is the epitome of the deen. And that also has a science. And its science is called what? One of them is ethics. But in Islam, ethics we always find among a number of special group of people who were called by the strange name of Sufis. Sufis. And many people today, you say they were Sufi, they go into cardiac arrest. Right? But we shouldn't do that. I remember when Habib Ali al-Jifri came to the United States in the year 2003. It's a long time ago for most of you, not for me. To me it's yesterday, but for you young people, it's a long time ago. 14 years ago, right? Before you had a driver's license. But in those days when we talked about ihsan, we always talked about ihsan, so that we didn't get any cardiac arrests. And then Habib Ali said, say Sufism. Because he said, this is our tradition. We've always called it Sufism. And when the people go to the books, they will find Sufism. And what will they do then? So from that time, alhamdulillah, I began to use that word in public. And there were cardiac arrests. But God bless them, God protect them. And we won't talk about Sufism today because that's not our topic. But one of the great things about the word Sufism, Sufiya, or Tasawwuf, is that nobody knows what it means. The first Sufis come at the end of the 1st century. The first people that we know to use that word, they come at the end of the first century of the Hijrah. In Medina, actually. But is it from wool, suf? Is it from safa, purity? Is it from as-saf al-awwal, the first line, in obedience to God and prayer? Is it from Ahlul Suffa, the people of the bench, like Abu Hurairah? Every one of those arguments has got people for it and against it. The fact is, we don't really know what it means, and that's why it's a perfect word for ihsan. Because the people of ihsan are people who detest claims. Ittaqi man yadda'i. Beware of the maker of claims. So they don't want to make claims about themselves. They would be the last to say, Nahnu al-muhsinun. We are the muhsins. We are the muwahidun. They are the muwahidun. They're the ones who see the oneness of God in everything. But they wouldn't say that about themselves. In fact, these great men and women of the path, they may be the most complete sheikhs ever. But as a rule, they won't ever say that. They won't even say that. I've had that experience many times. Of course, Hadith Jibreel doesn't end with these three. But then Gabriel asked the Blessed Prophet, tell me about the hour of the end of the cosmos, when the cosmos, which is the ordered world that we see around us, on the earth and in the heavens, it will come to an end. The stars will come to an end. The planets will come to an end. That whole order will be finished, just like this. Just like this. There will be a new order. And what did the Blessed Prophet say, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Mal mas'ulu anha bi'a'lami min as-sa'il. That the one who is asked about this, meaning himself, the most knowledgeable of God's creation, is not more knowing or knowledgeable about this than the one who's asking the question, whom he knows is the angel Gabriel, coming straight from the throne of God. This is, of course, very important. Because always the things that pertain to the hour and the end of time, and these often horrific events that will come before it, these are never known for sure. They always have this aspect of being unidentifiable. You can't really put your hands on them. You can't really put your finger on it. But this is also deen. And this is included actually in what went before, because technically speaking, the belief in the last day and the belief in the signs of the last day, this pertains to Iman, doesn't it? This is one of the things we study in Iman, in what we call the Sam'iyat, the things that are heard from the prophets. So it belongs to Iman. Not to this Iman, but it belongs to you too, but to the Iman of the Deen. So this is what we want to talk about today. And one of the things that is very important to say is that every single prophet and messenger who ever came has told us this story. The story of the end of the world, which includes the Antichrist, the Dajjal, and it includes those other great happenings or horrific happenings that happen with that. So every prophet, beginning with our father, the messenger Adam, warned their people of the Dajjal, of the end of the world, of the breakdown of the moral order, of the end of goodness, and of the prevalence of evil. And they did this so that people not be deceived. That they not be deceived by the Antichrist, but also that they not be deceived by this reality. which is something that is always there in the human soul, always there in the human condition. And so we have to linger on that for a moment. Adam, alayhi salam, he comes at the very beginning. At the very beginning. And was it really necessary to tell his children about the Antichrist? And the answer is yes, it was. And that's because that reality was as real in his time as it is today. And this is something very difficult for us to understand. But these realities are realities that are always there, and they repeat themselves. They come back time and time again. Every prophet warned against the Dajjal because of the tremendous evil and the great test, the fitna, that come with him, and that also come in preparation for him. So, there is one final Dajjal who comes at the end, and he is described by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam quite exactly, but there are many that come before that. And just as the good people who will confront him, like the Mahdi alayhi salam, there are also many Mahdis who come before him. They are not the Mahdi, and they wouldn't call themselves that, but they are figures that have this reality in them. So, this is also because there are always preparations. So there are preparations for the Dajjal, and there are preparations for those who will withstand him. And the prophets taught us these things out of compassion, out of shafaqah, for us and for them. We also have to remember that all human beings on the face of the earth who have ever been or who are right now, all of them are rooted directly or indirectly in prophetic traditions. Even the most isolated people on the most isolated islands with the so-called micro-religions, they're also rooted in that prophetic past. And if you study about their beliefs, you'll see that's true. All of them believe in the one God. All micro-people, so-called primitive people, all of them believe in the one God. They all have names, beautiful names for the one God. This has been carefully studied. They're not necessarily muwahidun, because often they associate with that God things that shouldn't be associated with him, like heroes of the past or ancestors, which may or may not be in contradiction to Tawheed. Often they're very similar to the way that the pre-Islamic Arabs were before the coming of Islam. But this is an amazing thing, and it does show that all of this goes back to ancient prophetic legacies. Well, what's the importance of that? Part of the importance of that is that also Adam and Noah and all the prophets who will come in early time, they give these messages so that that remembrance remains in their children. And it's amazing, what you will find in ancient peoples and micro peoples that goes back to that. Also, it was a legal imperative. It was a legal obligation that the prophets tell us about the Antichrist and about the end of time. So they had to do that. And this is so that no people could say, no one ever told us. We thought things were going to be rosy to the very end. So they have to know things are not like that, and things are not going to be rosy, and they're going to be big tests. They're going to be huge tests. But also, we have to understand that they have to do this as well because those realities could happen at any time. This is very difficult for us to understand because probably all of us or most of us have the notion of linear time, as if time is a straight line. And you have a beginning, you have an end, you have years between that. You can't link the beginning with the end. That's not really the correct concept of time either. Time works in ways that you and I cannot fathom. Okay, but the fact that all prophets from the beginning of time warned of the end of time, then that indicates also that the danger was omnipresent. The danger was always there. Things can get worse and things can get as bad as they could possibly be. When did that happen before? That happened in the days of Noah, our father. And you were on the ark with Noah. Do you know that? Allah says that in Surah Yasin, that God carried the progeny of Adam, our progeny on the ark, because you were there in the loins of your father, whether that was Sam or Ham or Japheth. So in your recollection, deep within yourself, you actually can remember the flood. You can actually see the ark. You know it's true. You may not be able to explain it, but you know it's true because you were there. It is imprinted in your DNA. But what did the people of Noah try to do? They wanted to invert the divine order. That is the work of the Dajjal. That is the work of the Antichrist. The Antichrist will invert the order. We're told that by many reports. In the days of the Dajjal, men will not need women, and women will not need men. They will enjoy each other. Okay? We see a lot of that happening in our time. But did that not happen in the people of Lot? Did that not happen in other people after that? Of course, the people of Lot, they are also a people who have these elements of the Antichrist. And Lot comes to warn them, and then they're destroyed. The people of Noah are also like that. They seek to overturn completely the divine order, and then God removes them. And we start over again, and Noah becomes the second Adam, the second beginning. It's also true that the prophets and the messengers, they come to tell us about every type of good. There's no type of good or goodness that they don't give you some indication of or some teaching about. And also, there's no type of evil that they don't warn you about, that they do not make you aware of. This is what they have to do. And so this is also part of that story. They want you to understand all the tricks of the trade, all the good things to do as well. But we have to know the tricks of the beast. We have to know the tricks of the Antichrist. We have to know the tricks of the self. They say the self is worse than 70 shaitans. So they also come to tell us this, because again, this is in the nature of reality. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. God in Surah Al-Shams makes an oath by the soul, your soul, and by the soul, the psyche, the ego, the self, and that which made it perfectly symmetrical, perfectly ordered, perfectly programmed. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا. when He inspired it with the knowledge of its depravity. He inspired it with the knowledge of things that belong to the Antichrist, things that pertain to Satan himself. And ilham in Arabic is always good. Ilham is always positive, but things are known by their opposites, and you are meant to be a great source of good, an infinite source of good. But how can you be that if you're a babe in toyland? You have to know the nature of evil. And you have to know the nature of evil so that you recognize it when it comes, so that you're not taken by surprise, and so that you can respond to it intelligently and wisely. So this is why we're given the knowledge of our own depravity and the depravity of all human beings. And that knowledge is very complete. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. And He also gave it the ilham of its taqwa, of its righteousness, its reverence, its goodness. All of the prophets and messengers were sent both for this world and the next. Isn't that true? So they teach us all these miraculous things that we need to know for this world. Again, most of you are people of the East, Nusantara, and the lands that are further east, and the South, Australia. The East, I always like to say, is the king of the directions, Sayyidul Jihad, the Lord of the directions, the four directions of the horizon. The Lord of that is the East. The East is the king. That's where the sun rises. That's where the day begins. It's very special. It's very special. And the most blessed of all the directions is what? The South. The South. Like Australia. Okay? That's the land of the South. So there's got to be good there. And the West is the land where the sun sets. So it's the land of death and also resurrection. It's also the land of sainthood.
And other things. And the north is Shah. It is the direction of omens. Things that are ominous. It doesn't mean that the people in the north are evil people, because some of them are extremely good people. But they're there to protect from what is ominous. Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they come out of the northeast. Okay, so the north is a place of omens. And that's why Muslims put north on the top of their maps. That was what the colonialists did, because they lived up there. But we could put east on the top of the map, or south. We could show things. But the messengers come to teach us about this world, to reveal to us the secrets of this world. Many of you people in the Chandra are people who know a lot about martial arts. The greatest martial arts come from here, to my knowledge. And we have people in the crowd here who can tell you things you probably already know about breathing. How you breathe as if you were smelling a flower, and you make that breath go deep within you, and you breathe out a different way. Learn this. This is from the prophets. These are ancient knowledges that go back to ancient prophecy. And we can't trace it necessarily, but whatever is beneficial in that, we benefit from. And we also believe that it's part of ancient legacy. The prophets taught us many things. They teach us about this world, but they also teach us about the next. And of course, they come for the next world. That is the chief priority. That whatever you do in this world will make you good in this world. That you will be prepared for the next. You won't be taken by surprise. You won't find yourself a loser when you thought you were a winner. So again, the nature of these reports from the very beginning about the end of the world, the inversion of the moral order and the social order, these go back to the very beginning, and these are to also teach us the nature of good and evil. And that good has a divine order, and that evil upsets that order and establishes a substitute order of its own. That's one of the main things that the Dajjal does. He turns things upside down. And this is so that whenever we see the good, we can recognize it and we can support it. And whenever we see evil, we can also say, but that's not good. And we can protect ourselves from it. And we can also warn about it, and we can also stand up against it. So all prophets, all messengers told us about the Antichrist. Our prophet, however, added a fact about him that had not been mentioned, and you know what that was, that he is Abd-Allah, that he has only one good eye, he has a bad eye, that he can't see with. He turns a blind eye to the greater part of reality. He only sees, he's myopic. And of course, our civilization today is very myopic. It sees its reductionist. Modern thought, modern science, in the last 500 years, always has this quality of being reductionist, meaning reducing the big story to a little story. The German thinker Heidegger, most of you have heard of him, you might not know how to actually pronounce his name. He said in his early career, he said, the moderns appropriated for themselves two divine attributes, knowledge and power. He's saying that metaphorically. But they claim for themselves two divine attributes. One of them is knowledge. That's because they think they know everything. But they can only know everything by reductionism. They must drastically reduce the scope of what is known. And then they can control it. And this is, of course, modern technology. Technological power, bombs, and so forth. That gives us power. We have the power that comes from this technology. Heidegger is, of course, at that time indicating that this is not a good thing, and it's not a real thing. But again, it's part of that myopic nature of the modern project. Now, this is the point that I want to stress today. I hope this will be clear to you, and I hope that you will have a good opinion of me as I say this, and of our great teachers, especially those who are much greater than myself. But one of the things that's very important to know about the end of time is that we can never gauge it. We can never know exactly what time it is. This is very important. We cannot gauge the end of time, even though the signs appear to be everywhere. But it doesn't mean that the end will be tomorrow. You can't gauge that. And you'll see that it's always elusive. And so this is very important to know. And again, it goes back to the fact that we have been told these realities from the very beginning. And these realities repeat themselves from the very beginning to the end. And sometimes they appear so clear that believers are sure this is it, it's the end. And yet, a new stage of history begins, even a new dispensation, and we begin all over again. So this is very important. We cannot tell time, and it is the blessed Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who says, "Mal mas'ulu anha bi'a'lama min as-sa'il," that he who is asked about this, the blessed Prophet, who is the most worthy of all creation to know the secret, doesn't know. Nor do you, Gabriel, who are asking the question. So we have to always keep this rubric clear in our hearts. Very, very important. God says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'arij, سأل سائل بعذاب واقع للكافرين ليس له دافع من الله ذي المعارج تعرج إليه الملائكة والروح في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة فاصبر صبرا جميلا إنهم يرونه بعيدا ونراه قريبا. Probably everyone here knows those beautiful verses. And most of you in the Sanskrit have memorized them in the little. But a person asked that God send down this punishment. They said, okay, the day of judgment is coming. Let it come right now. I'm sorry, that's not your prerogative. He asked for a punishment that will surely occur. This is a punishment which is going to happen. It could happen right at this moment. It could happen tomorrow. God is Maliki Yawmiddin. Isn't that the recitation that we have mostly in the Sankara? Hafs. But I know that the Alawites, they often use Ibn Amr, which is a little bit different. And I'm sure you got that here as well. But in Hafs, which is standard recitation for most Muslims today, we say Maliki Yawmiddin. Others, Maliki Yawmiddin. Both are correct. But Maliki Yawmiddin, King of the Day of Judgment, means that on that day, no one owns anything. You don't own a single thing. He is the possessor of everything. There's no kings, no princes, no sultans, no dictators, no rulers, no rich people, no poor people. No one owns anything on that day. But Maliki Yawmiddin is a little bit different. Because this is what we call in Arabic Ismun Fa'il. And those of you who study Arabic, you know what that means. It is fa'il. It is what we say, participle. Is that right? Forgive me. But when you take that fa'il and you put it in conjunction with a ma'rifah, that is a noun that has a definite article, ad-din, then it means it's always that way. Baqi with them is another example. God is the forgiver of the sin, any sin, always. So Maliki Yawmiddin means He's always that way. This is not something that will just happen on the Day of Judgment. That right at this moment, God is the total master of the Day of Judgment. So it's as if it is playing out before you right at this moment. And it is. Because each of us is being rewarded, and inshallah none of us is being punished. But some people are. When you have good thoughts and good deeds that God accepts, He immediately rewards you. He will reward you infinitely in the future. But even now He rewards you, and how does He do that? He gives you fadl, He gives you bounty, and He gives you more good deeds. And He makes it easier for you to do good deeds. So this is part of the story of the Day of Judgment. So that you did this great deed, you had this great thought, you protected someone's honor. So I will multiply your good deeds so that when you meet me on the Day of Judgment, you will be rich. And then there are other people that that's not their story. They turn away. Maybe your own brother. Maybe your own sister. And you see them begin to turn away. It's like, how can you do that? We were in this together. Maybe we even saw signs. God showed us His power. And it's like, I'm not listening anymore. And he or she begins to fade away. And that's a painful thing for us. But it's also adl. It is justice. Because no one goes astray except as an act of divine justice because of something they thought, because of something they put here, because of something that was not correct, because of something they did, maybe that no one knew about as the doors begin to close. So, he is married to you. But then he says here, the angels and the Spirit rise up to Him. They go up to Him. In a day that's like 50,000 years. Okay, there's no bigger period of time mentioned in the Quran that I know of. Certainly not that's explicit. And the day of judgment is 50,000 years for this believer. Inna tasbir sabran jadida, so have beautiful patience. Have beautiful patience, O sister, O brother. Be strong. Be strong. Be solid. Be balanced. Be wise. إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا. They see it as a long way away. And we see it as near. We, that is God speaking, we see it as at hand, right now. So this is also a very beautiful verse because it tells us many things. These 5th and 6th verses deal with marriage, but they also tell us about the nature of time, and you cannot calculate that. And therefore these last things were near things from the very beginning. Just as at the very end, when they seem so near to us with our linear vision, they also can be far away. You don't know. You cannot tell that time. One of the names of God is Ad-Dahr. Ad-Dahr is a very hard name to translate. And Dahr is one of the names of time, isn't it? I know some of you study this. Ad-Dahr. Arabic has different names for time. But Dahr, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do not speak evil, do not slander, do not say abusive things about Ad-Dahr, because Ad-Dahr is God. This is the valid hadith, authentic hadith. But Ad-Dahr is Batin Zaman. It is the internal reality of time and place, which people like me know nothing about. We like to learn these intoxicating expressions, and we love to hear them, but we don't fathom them. But God is Ad-Dahr because He is not in time and space. He is not delimited by time and space. And all of you know that because that's basic Aqidah that you studied from the time probably that you were children. He is the Lord of time. He is the Lord of space. He is never enclosed by them. He's never encompassed by them. And this is also what it means to be Ad-Dahr. Because time for Him is something that is totally under His power, His control, His omniscience, His perfect knowledge. And in time, for Him, certain things are not a long time ago, and other things are not a long time in the future. And we can talk about that to a great extent. God knows how many breaths you will breathe in the garden. May we all be in the garden forever. And how many breaths will you breathe in the garden? May we be there together. Infinite. And yet that infinite set, and infinite sets we can't understand in this world. But He knows the infinite set of all of the breaths that you will breathe in the garden, not to mention all the breaths you will breathe here. Your life as an adult, as you know, your life has a certain allotment of existence. You could say of time. How is that measured? By this clock. By minutes, by Greenwich Mean Time. It's measured by breaths. Breaths. That's why it's good for me to remember these. I hope I can remember. Breathe deeply. Deeply. And then breathe out. That's one breath. That's one breath. And as Ibn Allah says, في كل نفس تمضي له فيك قدر يمضي. In every breath that you breathe, God has in you a destiny He fulfills. Your existence is a miracle. Wake up. You're depressed. How could you possibly be? Wake up. Depressed people, by the way, don't breathe. Do that. Little tiny breaths. I take one breath, and the time I take one breath, they take 100. So it's like they're imitating death. Their lives are going by really quickly. And God bless them and God cure them. I know a man in Chicago who is a great man. He has a great business, but he has big problems with depression. One day he met me in a parking lot in Chicago and he said, I'm there again, I'm in depression. And I said to him, Ali, breathe. He's not breathing. He's sitting there in front of me, tiny little breath. I said, would you breathe? You won't do it. I said, do you want me to make you breathe? He said, I'll try. And every one of those is the miracle of existence. Now, one of the most important things here, in light of everything we've said, and I hope that what I say is clear to you. I hope that I make it clear. It's very important because this, I hope, is a lesson in ilm. And I'm grateful for Allah and great teachers. God will bless them to know. But we have the asbab, right? And you all know what that means. The asbab are these material causes, these material means to things. That if you're hungry at the break of day, you need to eat breakfast. And it's good for you to have porridge or an egg or something, right? That's the sabab. It is a secondary cause. Just as you want to go to college, so you've got to study. There's not a pill you can take, that when you wake up you'll have the perfect examination. You've got to study. We have to use the asbab. And the asbab, this honoring the asbab, recognizing the asbab, the material aspects of our lives, and doing them, this is a Sharia obligation, and Sharia obligations never end at the last day. And I gather from the beauty of this crowd that many of you are people who have a love for this thing called Sufism. I didn't see any cardiac arrests. And again, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to offend anyone. If we have people here who don't like that word, you're not my enemy, and I'm not your enemy. We are brothers and sisters, and we want to understand each other. We don't want to demonize anyone. But in the path, we talk about haqiqah. We talk about ultimate realities. Batin zaman, ad-dahr, the inward reality of time. Ad-dahr, this is a haqiqah. It's a haqiqah that's relatively easy to access because it's there in the hadith. And you can look it up in the tafsir or the sharh. You can look it up even in dictionaries. Ta'bibat, Jurjani. So it's not form, but it is a haqiqah. How do I get my heart around that? How do I get my mind around it? But we say in the past that the haqiqah, the ultimate reality, or ultimate realities, maratib al-wujud, different levels of existence, the nature of time, the time is not linear. Time is not uniform. It doesn't work the way that most people think it works. This is also what the lesson today is about. Time is surprising, and it will take you by surprise, so you be ready for it. But these are haqa'iq, and the haqiqah is in the sharia, like butter is in the milk. And again, I don't know as much about Nusantara as I would like to know. And I don't know how much butter you have here, or how many cattle. I know you do have cattle here, at least you did, and I saw some back. But, of course, for those people who have cattle, and I'm a farm boy, I used to milk cows. We played a lot when we did that, we would squirt each other. But we would get that milk, which was milk. It was raw, and it was good, and it was healthy. And then your grandmother makes you churn it until you can't churn it anymore. And out of that you get butter. Right? So the haqiqah is in the milk, like the haqiqah is in the sharia, like butter is in the milk. But you've got to churn the milk. You can't get the butter without churning the milk. So we believe in sharia. And we never leave it. If you leave the sharia, you have left the soul. You can't leave it. And the Sufis, the real Sufis, are not goofy. The real Sufis are the most serious of all people as regards to sharia. Every one of them. Every one of them. They know the sharia and they love the sharia and they follow it closely, and that is their secret. If they leave it, then they also leave the haqiqah. And therefore the Salaf, these early great generations of the companions, radiallahu anhum, and the tabi'un, the successors, and the tabi'in, the successors of the successors, they will say, Man tahaqqaqa من تشرع ولم يتحقق فكسب. Whoever lives by the Sharia only and doesn't taste the haqiqah, you don't have that beauty that comes with dhikr, or that softness that comes from the knowledge of God, they will become corrupt. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Because all they talk about is halal and haram, and you can't do this, you can't do that, but they will do it. They will justify it. Because the Sharia has in it lots of licenses also, and they begin to use those. And they begin to end the Sharia. They will become corrupt. وَمَنْ تَحَقَّقَ وَلَمْ يَتَشَرَّعْ تَزَنْدَقَ. And whoever imbibes the haqiqah, and I can give you books that are nothing but haqiqah, and you might be intoxicated. You might say, this is all I want. But you can't have it. You can't have just haqiqah. You've got to have sharia. You have to walk in the sandals of the Prophet ﷺ. You have to get on Noah's Ark. Because haqiqah is an ocean that has no bottom, and it has no shore. You will drown. You've got to be on Noah's Ark. And that's the Sharia. That's the prophetic way. So part of the Sharia is al-akhdu bil-asbab. You've got to get up in the morning and work. You've got to clean your house. Speaking to the men. Right? Because this is a legal obligation on the likes of me, not on the likes of her. The woman in Sharia has tremendous freedom. We won't repeat that again. Because men will get up and walk out. And what's he talking about here? But I've heard that from some of the strictest ulama of all. That you don't have to clean your house. You don't have to cook. That's your husband's duty to see that. So if you do it, you will get the reward of our mother Khadija, because she supported the Prophet ﷺ out of her love of him and the truth. Okay, so you'll be like Khadija, you'll be like Fatima, but in the law, you don't have to do that. It's a noble thing to do, but you don't have to do that. So we have to follow, we have to have the asbab, we have to follow the asbab. And until the day of judgment, you have got to continue to live in the world of the asbab. You've got to continue to plant your plants, water your trees, take care of your farm, go to your job, do your accounts, mail your mail, or your email, or your Twitters, or your Facebook, or your WhatsApp, or whatever. You have to do that to the end. If you're a doctor, you've got to go to your office and take care of your patients. You do that to the very end. And here, one of the greatest of the hadith of all, the hadith that tells us about this, is the great hadith which is sahih, that probably everybody here has heard. In قامت الساعة وبيد أحدكم فصيلة فإن استطاع أن لا يقوم حتى يجلسها فليفعل. Let's put that in English. So, if the hour comes, the hour of the end, the sun rises in the west, and you won't have any doubt about that when it happens. If the hour comes, and one of you has in his hand a fasila, and a fasila is a little tiny date tree, and those that they send off sprouts, bananas do that too, many other things do that. And maybe the fasila here might be a banana fasila. Okay, but you have that fasila in your hand that you are going to plant. Then the Prophet said, if you are able, not to leave, not to get up and go until you plant it properly. Put it in the soil where it's supposed to be. Then let him do it. Then do that. So this is a sahih hadith, and this is a very important hadith, because it means no matter what you see, brother or sister, no matter what you hear, you stay sober. You stay at your job. You continue to work. You do what you're supposed to do. As one of my great teachers has said about this, المطلوب منا العزيمة وليس التشاؤم والتفاؤل. This is one of my great teachers. And he said that what is required of us is determination, azima, not pessimism, and not hope either. Okay, that's what he said, and these words to me are precious and true. In other words, this deen is not having these huge hopes. And I'm the worst sinner here because, I come from Nebraska, and we're real simple people. I come, in fact, the simplest part of Nebraska, which is the sand hills, where they have buffalo and rattlesnakes. And it's beautiful, I love it. The land of crazy horse and sitting bull. And we're simple people. Really. I'm thankful for that. But we're also optimists. We believe everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be good. So it's like maybe you should tone down the discourse a little bit. Because I never doubt this religion is your winning team. You're going to do it. You're going to pull it off. This religion is going to come back to life. Our Prophet ﷺ said that, and being the cowboy that I am, the farm boy that I am, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. You believe me. We're the winning team, inshallah. But this scholar says it's all about determination. And that's the lesson for me, as a matter of fact. Be determined. Every day, get up and work. Every step, take the next step after. But don't have to shallow. That's not my problem. Don't be pessimistic. And you especially, the blessed ones of you who sometimes are, don't be that way. You have to have hope, but don't have too much hope either. Okay? Let's balance it. Azima. We're going to work. We're going to do what we can do to get the So, never submit to sukoon and humum. Again, using the words of my teacher. Never allow yourself to be overtaken by passivity, by a state of sukoon where you don't do anything. Just wait. Okay? No, you have to work, you've got to get up, you've got to do what you have to do. Even if you see the sun rising in the west, you have to do that. And don't make yourself a person of khulul, which means obscurity, that you go out to the mountains and hide. And again, I have brothers and sisters who actually do that. And I love them, and I don't say anything bad about them. But I would say to them that, we've got other things to do as well. Maybe you can do those things there. I don't want to appear to be attacking anyone. When the Mahdi does come, and before he comes, there are Mahdis who come. They're not the real thing, but they are preparers for his way. But when he comes, he needs strong people, not weak people. He doesn't come as a savior who's going to set right everything we have set wrong. That's not what he does. And in fact, Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, who is one of the signs of the coming of the end, he'll come back a second time, as you know. Okay, but when he came the first time, he was a sign of this very thing. He was a sign of the coming of the Antichrist. He was a sign of the coming of this Mahdi spirit, which was him. And of course, the people around him, many of them, but not all. Most of them were people that were filled with jealousy and hatred and rivalry and weakness, and they tried to betray him. And he was supposed to lead them in a monumental jihad. And he was to prepare the way for the great prophet who would come after him. And this is something that is definitely in the tradition of the people of the book. How many of you have heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls? The Dead Sea Scrolls. I'd like to talk about that a lot. And I taught about them for 16 years or more. But the people of the Dead Sea Scrolls who discovered after World War II were people of the children of Israel who believed they had the true teaching of Moses. And they protected it very carefully. And they expected the Messiah to come at any time, and they were about 70 years before Jesus Christ. He did come, and they knew he was about to come. They expected he would. And then they knew after him would come the great one, the super prophet, the prophet of the end of days. So Jesus Christ was a sign of this in his time. So we have to work. And we work to the end. And we get up as if every day is like the day before. And in this we have to seek to please God. Do what is obligatory. Do, if you can, what is recommended. Don't do what is haram. And if you can, don't do what is reproved. And we say, if the Mahdi comes, alhamdulillah. And if it doesn't come, alhamdulillah. We will work anyway. So the signs of the day of judgment, they repeat themselves. They replicate themselves almost infinitely. We talked about that, but let's come back to it. And it's important because the signs of the end of time, the signs of the Antichrist, the signs of the rightly guided ones, who will stand against the Antichrist. These were always there, and they will always repeat themselves. And this was true of our community, and it's true also of the earlier communities as well. So everything has, one of my teachers told me, everything has muqaddimat. Everything has people that prepare for it. Okay, and this is what is so difficult to distinguish. Because you think this is it, but it's actually a preparation for it. It might be a preparation that is so big, it looks like the real thing. But if you wait, you'll see that it's not.
It's a preparation. And it's very important never to mistake the muqaddimah for the haqiqah. Never to mistake the preparatory person or persons or the preparatory events for the real thing. And when these real things come, they won't need interpretation, brothers and sisters. When you see the real Antichrist, you won't have any doubt, and it's a person. It's not just a system, although he does prepare by creating systems. And he's done that many times. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a good hadith, and I mean by that a hadith that is sufficiently authentic. He says, "Min ummati mahdiyun." The Prophet says that from my community there are different Mahdis. There are Mahdiyun, min ummati Mahdiyun. How many of you know, other than Imam Afroz Ali, who Al-Maturidi was? Al-Maturidi, who is one of our fathers of theology. Maybe our brother here knows Al-Maturidi. I think he does. Al-Maturidi is one of the great heirs of Imam Abu Hanifa. He is out of this world. And he is one of our great theological teachers. He's very similar to Imam al-Ash'ari. I am an Ash'ari. I was schooled in the Ash'ari school. And I love the Ash'ari school, but I also love the Maturidi school. They're very similar. There's slight differences. Maybe you might say some are not so slight. Al-Maturidi is one of the first people to write about Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic legal theory, Maqasid al-Sharia. He's one of the greatest Hanafi scholars who ever was. And he is one of the real heirs of Al-Imam al-A'zam, Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa has no peer. Abu Hanifa is great. Imam al-Shafi'i has no peer. Imam Malik has no peer. Imam Ahmad. These are all stars in heaven. But Maturidi was called the Mahdi of his time. He was called the Mahdi of his time because he did in Central Asia such amazing things to establish Islam, to protect Islam, to refute the Dajjajila, the Antichrist-like figures that were there. There is another hadith which says, there is no Mahdi but Isa. There is no Mahdi but Jesus Christ. That hadith, I've been told by my teachers, is not authentic. That's not authentic. And some of you have no doubt heard that, although Jesus Christ and the Mahdi always go together. And those realities are twin realities. So the lesser signs in particular, al-alamat as-sughra, these are from the first days to the last, from the days of Adam to the end of the world. And in our ummah, they're from the very beginning to the very end. Sometimes they are abraz, sometimes they are clearer than others. So the final, terminal Dajjal, the concluding Dajjal, who is the A'war, he is a human being with a bad eye. I don't know if I should say this, but I don't like to talk about specific people or groups. It's not nice because people then generalize and they demonize innocent people. but there's a particular family that brought a lot of trouble into the world by teachings about Islam that are simply not complete or true. I hope nothing else more than that has to be said. And you will see in this family that they're either blind or they have a bad eye. Almost everyone. And the people who follow them closely will usually be blind or they have a bad eye. And that's interesting, isn't it? Are they Dajjals? No, they're not Dajjals. But they're not very far removed. They're doing His work. And therefore, they have problems with vision. One of my great teachers was a Mauritanian. In fact, one of my teachers here is a Mauritanian as well. And he is Sheikh Muhammad Mahmoud Wil Zidan. I met him in Medina in the year 1983 in pilgrimage. And he was a poor man who had a goat that he milked to live by. Lived in a little hut in Medina. He was a great scholar. I was honored to be with him for a long time until he died. In fact, towards the end of his life, he was a poor man, so I was a professor in the university. I had a good salary. I asked his permission to be able to give him a certain amount of money every month. And I would do that. And then at the end of his life, he told me, he said, "Little brother, we don't need this anymore." And I thought, oh, that's great. Like now they're going to take care of you. You're going to get a payment from somebody else. And he died just a few days after that. And he died in the Rawdah. And he always spoke the truth. He didn't care who it was. He spoke the truth, but beautifully, so people would listen to him. And he died sitting down in the Rawdah, doing dhikr. And then the time came for the women to visit. And one of the policemen came and he said, "Ya Sheikh, qum. Sheikh, get up. Time for the women to visit. Ya Sheikh, qum." And then the man didn't respond. And then finally he got down. He saw this man's not alive. So he had died in that blessed position. But mashallah, this person also was one of our teachers, and may God give us the blessing of them. But he also would talk a lot about these things and these preparations. So the signs have always been there. And let's just, take a few examples. Again, we said Noah. The signs are there with Noah. The signs are there with Abraham. The signs are there with Lot. The signs are there with Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. In fact, those two are a pair. And you have many of these pairs that are like Jesus and the Mahdi, even though they're not. But you have Isaac and you have Ishmael, you have Jesus and John the Baptist, you have Abraham and Lot. All of these have what we would call archetypical meaning, symbolic meaning, and they're all reflections of these great realities of good and evil. The Khawarij, the breakaways, and you know who the Khawarij were. And the Prophet ﷺ warned about them. The hadith warning about the Khawarij are mutawatira. They are abundantly narrated in sahih transmissions. So they are among the strongest of all narrations. And the Khawarij are these amazing people who adopt Islam, and they are extreme. They pray all the time, all day and all night. They recite the Quran 10 times more than the best of us here. And they fast day after day after day. And yet the Prophet said they are the dogs of hell. And he said they are the dogs of the people of hell. And he said they are the worst Sharrul khalqi wal khaliqa. They are the worst of all people created and all animals, scorpions included. Centipedes. You have big centipedes here in your forest that are very dangerous. They're worse than even that. The world of snakes is a big, rich world. And there are certain snakes that are like Satan's. We have, for example, in South America, a beautiful snake called the fer de lance. It's really beautiful, and it's really dangerous. And if you sleep in a hammock, which often people in the forest do, you better be careful in the morning when you step out of that hammock, because you may have a fer de lance right under you. What's he doing there? And why did you park yourself there? And if he bites you, basically it's all over. So these people are worse than that. And they come in the days of the Prophet ﷺ, and they are the biggest fitna that Islam ever had. Who will kill Imam Ali? Ridwanullahi alayhi wa karramallahu wajhahu. It's them, isn't it? And they'll try to kill Imam Muawiyah, and we love Muawiyah. He's not the equal of Imam Ali, but he is also a Sahaba, and he's a great leader. And they will try to kill others as well. They were a huge fitna, but they are one of the biggest signs of the end of time. And their appearance in the days of the Sahaba was seen not as something that is reflective of what's to come, but as that reality itself. And you have Musaylima al-Kadhab, Musaylima, the great liar, who is an embodiment of the reality of what? The Antichrist. So he is an Antichrist preparing the way for the Antichrist. And of course, when we look at the hadith of the Blessed Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he warned us of the Khawarij that would come at later times, and who would be supporters of the Antichrist, that they always were. And they would be a great fitna. So these signs repeat themselves. They come again and again. One of our great scholars writes about the Khawarij. He's one of the great judges of Lebanon, An-Nabahani. He's one of the great judges of Lebanon. And he wrote about an early outbreak of the Khawarij. And then he said, they will be finished, but then after them will come another one. And they will be even worse. And they will mix their teaching with the teachings of other people, other ideologies. That's very frightening. And never will they be eliminated, the Prophet told us, but that they will come back again, until they are there in the day of the Antichrist himself. Okay, this is a beautiful request. You know what he told me? He said, you've got all day. No, he didn't say that. We'll finish, inshallah. Okay, so this is very important. And again, Jesus Christ is an embodiment of the goodness that will come to repel the evil of that which is anti-Christian, anti-Christ-like. And the time of Jesus Christ had in it a figure that the early Christians knew was the Antichrist. Who was that? Nero, Emperor of Rome, who was an evil man. Show me one who is worse, a satanic man, demonic man. Was Nero the Antichrist as they thought? Well, you and I know that he wasn't, because he's gone now. And history took over again, and other things happened. But was Nero an Antichrist? Yes. Because before the Dajjal comes, there are Dajjajila. There are figures that are the Antichrist. And he was one of those. He was one of those, without any question. And he is a preparer of the way of the Antichrist, even if it doesn't renew itself for 1,000 years or for 2,000 years. But he is part of the Hizb Shaitan. So we have Hizbullah. And we mean by that the party of God that sincerely worships God, like the companions of the Prophet, every single one of them, Muawiyah included, Amr ibn al-As included. And we have the Tabi'un, the successors, and the Atba' Tabi'in. These are Hizbullah. These are the faction of God. And you have Hizb Shaitan. These are the faction of Satan. And this is one of the signs of the end of time. It's one of the signs of the Antichrist. They are the soldiers of the Antichrist. And the Hizb Shaitan will always belong to the religious community that they undermine. So we have them among us. The Khawarij were Hizb Shaitan. Look in the commentaries if you need further information. Look in the commentaries. And again, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you compare your prayer to theirs, your fasting to theirs, your recitation of the Quran to theirs, you'll see that you're like nothing. They are extreme to the furthest degree possible, but they don't have real belief. And they will leave this religion just as quickly as they came into it. And the Prophet ﷺ likened them to an arrow that is overshot. And we have here in our wonderful audience, I'm sure on this side as well, archers. This is another one of the arts of the East, archery. It's an amazing art. It is a martial art of the highest order. In the Muslim world, we had great archers. And in Nusantara, you had masters, as you do in Japan with the samurai and with others. Archery is an amazing science. Okay, among the greatest archers of all in the Muslim world were the Andalusians, the Spanish and Portuguese. They were masters of archery. You know, they were incredible. You know, and why did I begin to talk about archery? I mean, pray for me. Pray for me. What's wrong? I got derailed. Does anybody know what I was talking about? Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, thank you. Pray for me. Look at this mind. What's happening? Old man, pray for me. You know, but the archer, when he or she shoots their prey, like a deer or a gazelle, you have to do it just right, don't you? If you do it really strong, the arrow may go through and come out the other side, and there won't even be blood on it. And it won't even wound the animal. It won't kill it. So you have to be able to hit the animal just right, and the arrow lodges in the animal. And then you have to track it, because usually it won't die immediately. You have to track it. We study about this in Islamic law, and hunters know about this as well. But in the case of the Khawarij, they are the arrow that is overpowered. And therefore they come into the religion and they leave it. It doesn't leave a mark on them. And for that reason, they do great evil. Their jihad is always against the believers, and they are the people who have a sign. They have actually several signs, but one of them is takfir. They are the people who believe that we are right and everyone else is wrong. He's a kafir. He's not a Muslim. He's a kafir. He's a kafir. She's a kafira. Because that's their sign. That's why you don't want ever to do that. That's dangerous territory. You want to be a person who finds for every single believer under the face of the sun 1,000 excuses. This is what Umar and others would say. If someone says something that sounds wrong, we will find 1,000 excuses to interpret it in such a way as to keep them in the deen. That's what we do. Okay, but the Khawarij are one of the signs of the end of time, and they come back again and again. Now, I think that we've got a lot to do actually, and I think it's best to stop here. But let me just say this, and please don't misunderstand me, and please don't be offended by what I say. But it's very important when we talk about the signs of the end of time to understand that you cannot tell that time, brother or sister. And again, some of the dearest people to me, whom you wouldn't know if I mentioned their names, they were people who were always telling me, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. It didn't happen. And then he comes back, this particular man's from the Yemen, the beautiful Yemen, and he is an Ahdal, he's a descendant of Sheikh Musa al-Kadhim, and he is one of the dearest of people to me. But we must be very careful not to interpret specific people or specific events in our time as those people or those events. And again, I don't want to blame anyone, people who are much better than me in that regard. So please don't misunderstand me. But the thing is that we don't know. And the signs can be very powerful. The signs can be very overwhelming. But we must not say, this is this. And when we do that, invariably, it's not going to turn out that way. You know who Saddam Hussein was. Everybody here. I, of course, lived in that time. I was in Jeddah and in Medina in the Gulf War. In fact, that's the time I could study most with Sheikh Mohammed Mahmoud Bil Zidan, because I was on vacation. Our university was closed during the war for a month and a half. So I went to Medina to study. But, you must be very careful not to say this one is that. And with Saddam Hussein, people were saying, this is the Sufyani, and Hafid al-Asad is this one, and this one is this one. And sometimes that affects people in a negative way. Maybe they stop their work. Maybe they don't know what to do. So again, you have to keep working. And you have to be careful. And where is Saddam Hussein now? Where is Hafid al-Asad now? And where is that event that was going to happen? So we have to be very careful about applying these true statements of our Prophet to any specific person or any specific event. This is very, very important. And this is what I've learned from my teachers, and also, from great fuqaha. That be careful about this. Are these indications? Can we understand about this? Do we know that this is evil or good? That's different. But to say that this one is that one, you'll see invariably it doesn't quite work out like that. And so therefore, why did the prophets tell us about the end of time? Well, we talked about that at length already. Shafaqah, compassion. They have to make the truth known, and so forth. That was the first thing that we talked about, right? But also, it is the nature of these authentic reports, that they are litmus tests. They are litmus tests that tell us about ourselves, that how are you going to respond to this? If you are strong, if you are a beautiful soul, and you are, then you keep working. You have azima, determination. Don't lose hope. Don't say it's all finished. Don't say that your work is futile. And also, don't be unreasonable in your hope, because the world is a difficult place. And the darkness that possibly awaits us could be very great. Look at the time we live in right now. Look at what's happened in my own country. And I'm not worried about that, but again, that's my problem. I never do worry. And other people have said, like, maybe you should start to worry. Maybe it would be wise for you to do that. And actually, there is some truth in that. We've got to be realistic. We've got to size things up properly. But these tests, these are litmus tests. And they tell us, they're one of the signs that tell us how firmly rooted we are, because we believe in them. We believe it. We have to. This is part of the deen. But also, we have to understand that the Prophet ﷺ was not able to tell us specifically when this would happen, nor the angel Gabriel, and so therefore we can't do that either. And I want to conclude here with 3 rules of good speech. And these apply in this case especially. And these are the rules that we should always be mindful of. That silence is golden. Man samata naja. Whoever keeps silence will be safe. So you cultivate the habit of silence. Silence with thought, silence with reflection, and that silence pollinates your heart and pollinates your thought. And when you speak, speak from silence. Just as in martial arts, you move from inaction. You move from absolute rest. And then you move with power. You're not tense. You're not tensed up. You move almost as it were from nothingness into being. So also we want to cultivate beautiful silence. Think, think, think. It used to be said about the English, and the English, in my opinion, are noble people, by the way. I love the English people, especially this wonderful Abdul Hakim Murad, who, if you want to know what a good Englishman is, look at him. He's 100% English. You can't be more English than he is. And, you know, I do love those people. I do. I also have that in my bloodline as well. But it used to be said of the English that they think twice before they speak. And I would say that's something we have to learn to do. Many of them today don't do that. Many of them today have become just like other people. But it used to be that they were known for thinking carefully before they speak. That is such a beautiful trait. One of my scholars who taught me, who's a colleague, Sheikh Khaldun al-Ahdab, who's one of the greatest muhaddiths of this time. He is an amazing traditional scholar. And he is one of the most intelligent people I ever knew. He's a Syrian. He's a Syrian and a master of hadith, a master of Islamic teaching. And he was my colleague for 16 years. He was also my office mate. So I was a lucky man. But one of the things I loved the best about Sheikh Khaldun al-Ahdab is that when I would ask him a question, he would put down his head like this. And he would think intensely. You could see him thinking. And sometimes it would be like he was thinking for 5 minutes. And then he'd raise his head and answer in the most thoughtful, beautiful answer you'd ever hear. This is the way we want to be. I wish I could be like that. Think, think, think before you speak. Then your words will be powerful. We say in the spiritual path that silence is jam'a. Silence is, how do we say, concentration. That's not a good word for jam'a. But jam'a is that reality that brings everything together. The Quran is jama'. The word qara'a, which means to recite and to read, it actually means jama'a. Jama'a. So the Quran, it brings together all the infinite knowledge of God. And that's why Umar would say, God be pleased with him, if I lose my camel halter, I can find it in the Quran. Where's the verse about camel halters? Which surah is that in? That's between the lines. Okay, but the Quran is that. It brings everything together. The Furqan, it spells everything out. Those are two sides, two dimensions of the revelation. But speech is jama'. It is concentration. There's a better word for that, but I can't get it right now. It's gatheredness. Thank you. It's gatheredness. Gatheredness. And speech is farq. It is separation. Okay? That's why silence is powerful. And speech is vulnerable to weakness. Speech is weakness. There's a king who say, when I speak a word, it becomes king. It owns me and I don't own it. That's true of all of us, even the most powerful. Once we say that word, it's over, it's out. It owns you. You'll have to talk about it for the rest of your life. Why did you say that? What did you mean? You hurt me forever. I'll never forgive you. And he said, if I don't say that word, I'm still the king. I own it and it doesn't own me. So the words you say, be careful. Think about them carefully, especially husband and wife. Marriages are usually destroyed by this, the tongue, right? We say things we wish we had never said. We destroy relations that should have been preserved forever. But when we speak, there are 3 boxes to check. The first of these, is what you say absolutely true? Are you certain of this? Are you certain of this? Because if you're not, don't say it. Or say it in a different way. That this is like this. This is similar to this. Or this appears to be that. So be truthful. Be careful. And then number 2, what is box number 2? Is it harmful? Because sometimes true statements are more than people can bear. Backbiting is all true. Oh, he's so fat. Look at his nose. Look at her. Look at the dress she's wearing today. Is that false? No. Is it harmful? Yes. Because that encroaches upon honor. Ird. And honor is sacred. The honor of every one of us is sacred. We have to protect each other's honor. And then there's things to say that are true, but they're harmful. The traditional healer, if you're really sick, will they tell you that? No. The modern Western physician spills the beans all over the place, including himself. So that you've got cancer, I think you've got about a week to live, you don't have a chance. Sorry to tell you this, but I have to do my job. That's not your job. Okay, your job is to cure her or to cure him. And it might be better not to even mention what they have. Because you want to, the basis of good health is husnul dhanni billah. The basis of good health is to have a beautiful opinion of God. And the basis of bad health is su'al dhanni billah. It's a bad opinion of God. So you want to give them hope. We're going to get this. You're going to be okay. Okay, one of the greatest people of our times is the great Muhammad Ali. He was a beautiful man. He was a beautiful man. Everything about him was beautiful. Every day and night he was helping people. And once it was said about him, his greatness was not that he knocked out 38 men, but that he lifted up millions of men and women. That's who he was. He was great. He was the greatest. Those words are correct for him because he said that in the face of white supremacy. Get out of my way. I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. And we are a people who is noble. He's the descendant of kings. He is the descendant of Mandinka kings. And his life is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But everything he did was to give and to give and to give. And to give people hope. There was a little boy who had leukemia. This is on YouTube. You've probably seen it. And this was when Muhammad Ali was going to fight Frazier or Liston, one of those fighters. And the little boy said, you're going to fight so-and-so, Frazier or Liston, and you're going to beat him. But he said, I'm fighting cancer, and I'm not going to beat him. And Muhammad Ali got in his car. He drove several hours to that boy's home to visit him in his house, a white boy. And he said, I'm going to beat Frazier or Liston. I'm going to do that, but you're going to beat cancer. You're going to beat cancer. Isn't that beautiful? This is a healer. It happens that Muhammad Ali won his match. And then, I'll try to say this without crying, because the tears are in my eyes already. The little boy didn't win his fight. And he wrote to Muhammad Ali, he said, I'm not going to win my fight. I'm going to lose it. But when I go to God, I will tell him that I am so thankful that I was on the earth with the likes of Muhammad Ali. Because these are the kind of people we want to be. And don't say things that are harmful. Don't say things that are harmful, even if they're true. And then, does it benefit? It's true. It doesn't cause harm, but will they listen to you? Will your mother listen to you? Will your father listen to you? No. Maybe your mother, maybe your father, not my mother, not my father. To the day I died, I am their little boy. And I remember both of them died noble deaths, painful deaths, but they said, we will die in our home. And my mother said, I will watch the quail outside my window. And she was there on a bed in the living room in her house. She had a little loft up above, and I would sleep in the loft. And I remember one night, I heard her talking. I swear, I heard her talking, and it was like somebody else was there talking to her. And I looked down, and there's nobody there. I came down from the loft. I stood at the foot of her bed. And then after a while, I could see she's awake. And I said, Mother, I said, you were talking in your sleep. And she said, when you were a boy, you walked in your sleep. So it's like, go back to bed. This old gray beard. It's like, for me, for her, you're a little boy. You'll be that way always. So also, there's some people who are not going to listen to you. Don't expect your mother or your father or your grandmother or your grandfather. They may listen to you if you're really polite, if you're really respectful. But there are many people also who are not going to listen to you for many reasons. So is it beneficial to speak? Imam al-Ghazali says, never feel that you have to correct every single mistake. Many of us are like that, right? The American Revolution that took place in 1778. No, it's 1776. Was that important? No. It's like, let it go. Let it go. And Allah bless you all. My time is up. And may He benefit us with this wonderful religion. May He enable us to be people of azimah and people of good intentions. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm going to sit down.